I'm thinking 1980s, like all hedonistic young men in Ireland, you were drawn to finance and pensions. And was there a kind of a background that led you into this world?
No.
Oh,
Things were really, really poor. Ireland wasn't in a good place. 87, the company I'd worked with, I was in the freight business, had gone into liquidation. And I suppose, like lots of people my age, I was 23, I thought grass was greener on the other side. And I looked to move to Australia, is where this started. And a friend of mine was working for an Australian company, which transpired as being a life assurance company. I subsequently went in believing this was a door for me to get to Australia. And subsequently, here I am.
You've been in limbo ever
37 years
since.
later.
Yeah. You're still at the dock. Did it take a while though? Because for most people, I think there's an inherent fear when it comes to your finances that you just don't want to look almost. You don't want to try to figure this out because you feel that you may be doing something wrong, that you're going to miss a boat, you're going to miss a chance. Did it take you long to kind of feel comfortable in it, to recognize actually this might be better than Australia?
Yeah, from my perspective, I suppose the day I started was Black Monday in 87. So that was a bit of an eye-opener to really absolutely now. Fortunate enough for me being selfish, I didn't have clients. So I hadn't got anybody who was affected by the crash. But it was an interesting dynamic in relation to looking at how people handled money and what was happening and their exposure. So with a 23-year-old at that stage, really the sort of my clientele were a lot of my friends and colleagues. They weren't in a position where we were talking about large lump sum investments. We were looking at savings plans back in the day. We were looking at putting in programs for helping people get onto the mortgage ladders, etc. So it was interesting. It was good fun.
And that is a big leap in anyone's life. I have a daughter in that position now where she's finally, thankfully, got a house in Belfast with her husband, and it's just getting that first step is so difficult. So it must be kind of sweet when you know that you can help somebody who may otherwise have not had that chance.
Very much so. I mean, what we have found, and as a middleman from our perspective, what we're trying to do is explain to a client from the outset what needs to be in place, what an underwriter in a financial institution is going to look for when they're assessing somebody's ability to service this new proposed substantial loan. So we go through those steps with them. Some people are fortunate enough that they're able to make an application there and then. Most clients have to give it at least 6 months, understanding what it is they need to put in, to implement.
All right. So when it came to the decades now in Ireland, I just feel that we've definitely become a much healthier place, and people are certainly around this area, and I think around the country, sort of aware of what they're eating and how they exercise and all that. When it comes to finances, it would be a similar path. I don't know whether we've become smarter.
Very much so. And certainly COVID, if we jump up to the last couple of years, COVID changed an awful lot. People, I think, realized that we are only on this earth for a short period of time, that there is an end date. And there is definitely more money for a lot of people, but they're also aware of sort of planning, making sure children are okay, making sure they're okay for their future. We're living longer than we've ever lived with medical advancement. So there is a lot more awareness about what people can have and what products they should have. Obviously, everything comes down to affordability. But what we will try to always do with somebody is prioritize what's important. And what you took out potentially 10, 15 years ago doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for you today.
Right.
And we would again try to get people to review, look at what you have and measure it against what your today's requirements are.
Your own kind of experience over those decades, I don't know if it felt always natural, whether there was struggles as anybody has in any kind of line of work. I mean, as I say, it seems like the right place to be now because people are a lot more aware and a lot more clued in. But when you move from just helping your friends to helping strangers,
sure.
Was that a long process? Was it? I don't know how it was.
No, it was nearly a natural process, and I suppose what you take as a compliment always is referrals. So heretofore, we've never really advertised. We're not necessarily, a brand that's looking for people just to walk in off the street. We're looking, and the purpose of obviously me talking with you today is just awareness, for people to be aware of us. We're hoping that we can get people to follow us, and if business comes out of that, fantastic. But no, it's just been a natural progression.
Well, it's because it has been a big leap in a way that to go out entirely on your own. You've got your lovely offices here in Bray. So that, I don't know, was that big kind of moment of decision? I don't know if you sort of had to sleep on that for a long time, or.
So I worked for institutions from 87 through to 1999.
Okay.
In 1999, I made the decision that for me, it was best to go down the brokerage route and become an independent brokerage. I had my own entity, a company called PNI, back in 2099, and we ran up until the crash in 09. Predominantly, we were a mortgage lending advisor. So when the shutters came down, unfortunately, my business came down. I subsequently then joined with two other gentlemen, and we had set up a secondary entity, which we ran from 2010 up, and well, it's still running, but I made the decision to leave and set this up myself last year. So we're a little bit more niche-y in what we're doing here.
Well, that feeling too of the one-to-one that's important to you, that you, by being kind of, on your own and being able to deal with people personally and not just have it that you're part of a group and you're not aware maybe of some clients, that obviously is a big plus too, that you feel you're connected.
Huge, very much so. And a lot of my clients are friends. They've become friends. I mean, I believe it can't always be just about work. There are occasions when somebody will entrust whatever information, and we'll just talk it through. So it's good. I enjoy the one-to-one.
Well, what you're doing too, of course, is ultimately you're planning like somebody's comfortable future, like that they feel they won't have to worry, as much as they might without any kind of, plan, without any kind of steering wheel.
Very simple philosophy, Paul. What I've got here is we're looking at what happens if you live too long. That's retirement planning. What happens if you die too soon? And that's looking after, your immediate family and, and then there's the in-betweens. But I mean, it's very simplified. It's not as complex as everybody believes it is. Everybody is different.
Sure.
It tends to be, I said the most common question I get is, well, how much is Billy paying? Or what's Billy got? And everybody is different. So that's the sort of the plan we try to do. And, I suppose a big concern for people is always cost. And we will try, and it may well be that the element or the product that you should have costs a certain figure, which is not affordable. So we know what we would like to get to, but what we will do is fill the gap until hopefully you're in a position to get to where you want to be. And that's important in part of the planning process.
And I suppose to wrap up, we should say that first kind of consultation is free. So for people to get an idea of where they stand and what sort of options they have.
Totally free of charge.
So that's a kind of a very reassuring, sense of like, well, at least I know what my options are and what I could do. And now I'm just going to go home and think about what's best.
Yeah. And what I'd like to say there, as a regulated entity, from our perspective, if there's going to be a fee at any time, we are obliged to document that, discuss it in advance of either side engaging. So there's nothing hidden. Everything is very transparent. If it's going to be fee related or if it's going to be commission related, it's all outlaid from the outset. So clients is never going to suddenly find a bill as a right through the door that they were oblivious to.
And just to wrap up, I know we'll turn off the camera for this, but I've got a few thousand in the bank. You'll be able to turn that into $1 million in a year, wouldn't you?
Yeah, red or black.
Boom, let's go.